I bet most of the people in this room have come on your period unexpectedly or ran out of period products while you've been out at some point in your lives. I know I have. Men in the room, before you switch off because you think this doesn't apply to you, I can almost guarantee that someone that you care about has been affected by something like this. Whether it was your sister, daughter, wife, girlfriend, friend, or colleague. And the worst bit for them was probably that they were suffering in silence. I couldn't talk to you about it. So back to the women. What did you do in that situation when you realized you were out without any period products? If you were in work, I'm guessing you would have asked a colleague, but probably not just any colleague. Probably one you could trust to be discreet. And then did you call your period by its real name, or did you use a euphemism? And then did you hide the menstrual product up your sleeve when you went to the toilet? But what about if you were out by yourself? Did you just use some tissue as an emergency measure? How did you feel differently when you were using that tissue? Did you feel as safe and secure as you normally do? Or did you just leave a few of your jobs unfinished and rush home a bit quicker than normal? What if that tissue wasn't for emergencies? What if you had to use tissue every time you had your period because you couldn't afford menstrual products? Would you still see your friends while you're on your period? Or would you be too worried that you'd smell or leak? What about work and school? Would you be tempted to just call in sick for a few days a month so you didn't have that extra stress? So just to push this example a little bit further, have you ever had to choose between buying food and buying menstrual products? What if you had to choose between buying food for your children and buying menstrual products for yourself? It's pretty obvious which one you'd pick, isn't it? There are some women in the UK who have to make that choice every month. Every time an article about period poverty is published, the comments underneath show that we still have a huge lack of understanding of the reality of period poverty. Because the reality is that these women aren't spending their money on cigarettes and hair dye. That's not why they can't afford menstrual products. But I think this is symptomatic of a larger issue. Because when we don't talk about something, we don't understand it. And when we don't understand something, we make assumptions. Because we're still not talking about period poverty enough, we don't know things like why it's such a big problem, or the number of people that are affected by it. Because if a minimum of 300,000 women couldn't afford food at some point last year, they probably couldn't afford menstrual products either. These 300,000 women are all over the UK, and you meet them every day. Their children go to school with your children, they scan your shopping in the supermarket, they drink in the same pub as you, and they walk their dog in the same park as you. Because period poverty is a hidden need, we don't know who's affected. But these women have normal lives with houses, jobs, and families. They just find it difficult to afford the everyday essentials, like food, rent, and bills. But the problem with period poverty is that it makes them even more hidden. While they're on their period, they're missing out on school, work, and seeing their friends because they don't feel safe leaving the house without proper menstrual products. They're missing out on creating connections. They're missing out on an education and a chance for a better future. They're missing out on earning a living and progressing in their careers. Not having regular access to proper menstrual products is taking their independence away from them. I think the long-term solution to period poverty is a little-known product that's only really used by the very environmentally conscious at the moment. I discovered reusable sanitary pads when I was preparing to go backpacking around Asia. I wanted a product I could trust to use for the whole year that I was away. Reusable sanitary pads look and work like disposables, but they're made of fabric and you can wash and reuse them. They're much more sustainable than disposables because they last 3 to 5 years. So once you have a whole set, you don't need to buy any more period products for 5 years. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Reusable sanitary pads are better for everyone. They can help us reduce our period waste by up to 97%. They're much more comfortable to wear than disposables because they're not made with chemicals or plastic that can get into our bodies. They make us all more self-reliant and put our money into more ethical local businesses. Reusable sanitary pads are a rebellion against commercial disposable pads, which teach us to be ashamed of our periods and that our priority should be hiding them. Reusable sanitary pads can be a tool for us to get more comfortable with our bodies and understand them better. Access to donations of reusable sanitary pads could give women in poverty a chance to save that £5 a month, and at the end of the year, they'd have the equivalent of an extra food shop left. But reusable sanitary pads are a big leap of faith for some people. I had a lot of concerns about the ones I bought for myself 2 years ago. I didn't know if they'd be comfortable, if they'd actually absorb everything, and I was kind of worried I'd feel like I was wearing a nappy between my legs. So I created my social enterprise, Proud Pads, to bring reusable sanitary pads to the mainstream and to address the worries that anyone who's new to reusables might have. I've used the skills I learned from working in the fashion industry to create a reusable sanitary pad that's easy to use, easy to wash, and easy to understand. For women like me, who have been privileged, who're financially privileged, they've had a good education, and they have supportive family and friends, I wanted to give them another way to reduce their effect on the environment. And for women in poverty, I wanted to show them that reusable sanitary pads, like so many other ethical and eco-friendly products, aren't just an elitist product for the middle class, that they can help them too. So if we look at the amount of people that access to donations of reusable sanitary pads could help, it might seem like a small slice of the population. But if we step back a little bit and look at the bigger picture, and look at how that small slice of the population can affect the rest of society, then we'll see the real effects reusable sanitary pads can help. Because what reusable sanitary pads are really doing is empowering women in poverty. And the effects of empowered women can be massive. When women are more active in the workforce and society, they're more likely to get involved in politics and fight for local issues, and the economy grows at a faster rate. Empowered, educated mothers are more likely to spend more of the household income on their children, and they're more likely to raise healthy children who stay in school longer. And the cycle will continue. Their healthy, educated children who've had a good family life are more likely to boost the economy themselves and less likely to end up in poverty or as teenage parents. So the effects that reusable sanitary pads could have could be massive, right? But what's the point in knowing all this if we can't actually put it into practice? Because we fall at the first hurdle, just talking about periods, because we have to admit we're not very good at that. This can be especially hard if you're a man, but the more you talk about it, the easier it gets. So I've come up with a few tips to make the conversation a bit easier. The first is to go into the conversation sideways. There's been a lot in the news recently about periods and menstrual products. Like, did you see that ad which used the red liquid instead of that mysterious blue liquid? Talk about something like that, and then transition into asking people about their experiences. And be honest if you're embarrassed. Acknowledging the elephant in the room will probably help the person you're talking to feel a little bit more relaxed as well. And finally, be practical. No one's expecting you to find it really easy to talk about the biology of periods, and it's normal to be a bit squeamish about that. So talk about the practical side, like the products they can use, the features they have, how those products can benefit them and fit into their lives. So go home tonight and talk to someone about periods. I'd love it if you talk to me. You can find me on all social media at Proud Paths. Thank you.